TCI is brought to you by Forestry, sire of 15 graded stakes winners, including Preakness winner Shackelford.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Triple Crown. Alongside Joel Cunningham, I'm John Siegel. Joel, I know we've already recapped the Kentucky Derby last week from Churchill Downs, but today we have the benefit of video, and we wanted to look at a few observations that we noticed that we think may be helpful going into the Preakness. You really thought Inside Speed was holding at Churchill Downs last weekend. Tell me why.
It was playing well. I thought on Oaks Day, on a dry track, it played well, and I thought that carried over on a Saturday. Obviously, we had the rain and a sealed track.
Right.
And speed wasn't really an issue in the Derby. Once Palace Malice ran off and set that 45 and change half, John, there was plenty of pace on it. Set it up for a fair race for the closers. Certainly you didn't want to be real close to that because it was such a suicidal pace going a mile and a quarter. However, I thought the inside still played very kindly, and I think the finish in here, certainly makes that theory stand out. When you look at the 2 through 6 finishers, we go to the Twin Spires TV race replay, and we'll take a look at it. I mean, you had Oxbow, Normandy Invasion, Golden Soul, My Loot, Revolutionary. All 5 of those horses, John, were along the inside. They had the most inside trip all the way around there on the best part of the racetrack, in my opinion. You see here as they go by us the first time. One other observation I had, well, spot shadow here, Verrazano or making an outside winning run here. Verrazano is backing up, and he really impedes Will Take Charge. And I know that people have been buzzing all over about that this week. I do think that there's some validity there. I'm not so sure he was going to beat Orb. I think Orb was your best horse in the race and certainly won by open links in the end, John. But I do think, as big of a colt as Will Take Charge is, I think that definitely you don't want to stop a long striding colt like him. It certainly affected his finish. He wasn't going to get started again, and he was moving in tandem with Orb as they came off the quarter pole. So I do think Will Take Charge is very plausible. When you go back and look at that Rebel performance, when he kicked it in, those long strides as he ground down Oxbow that day, I think he could have probably been on the board in here. So he was the trouble trip horse in here. The horses that got the best trip, again, the horses along the inside. Golden Soul got the best trip in the race. Robbie came up the rail, beat Calvin to the punch. Right. I think that's why he was second. Revolutionary was third. But does that mean Golden Soul is now, was this his coming out party because he was second in the Derby, or was he the trip horse on the right part of the racetrack? We'll find out in the Belmont Stakes.
Well, like you said, he beat Revolutionary to the punch. Revolutionary actually gallops out past the winner. He's gonna bypass the Preakness, and we'll see him again in the Belmont. But let's jump right into the Preakness because you mentioned Will Take Charge. Joe, he's going to get another shot at these horses because Wayne Lucas is bringing him back. He's also going to bring back Oxbow in the Preakness as well. We could see as many as 8 Derby contenders in the Preakness this year.
Pretty incredible. They're trying Orb back in 2 weeks after he won decisively there. It tells me 2 things: that A, they feel like maybe the sloppy track could have hurt their performance. I know for Golden Sense, the fact that he didn't have a good wet track number, the fact that, his trip was hurt by the fact that, Palace Malice went out and set that 45 half. It really, put a big wrench into his plan. So now, he fades to 17th, probably doesn't expend that much energy, comes out of the race right. So you think logically, yeah, let's come back in 2 weeks at Pimlico. Maybe we could be lone speed in here. You mentioned Wayne Lucas. I think the biggest addition, not only in terms of new shooters being departing and the challenge that he could have, but the presence of Titletown 5 in this race, Lucas's third colt. I think the speed that he has is going to cause problems for Golden Sense early on and assure that Golden Sense can't walk away with this on the front end. And the reason I say it's so important is, again, we're going for that Triple Crown with Orb. Orb is a closer. People know that, even though he can be tactical in the middle stages of the races. I think for Orb fans, the presence of Titletown 5 is certainly a positive thing to ensure a pretty good pace up front with Golden Sense next week in the Preakness.
Well, you mentioned Titletown 5 as a new shooter, and you also mentioned Departing. Joel, I'm reading a lot of buzz. They say that this horse, Departing, could be Orb's biggest challenge.
I wouldn't dispute that, John. I mean, he's shown talent from the start. And you can see the progression in his races. Last time out in the Illinois Derby, he got Lasix, had an outside trip, won pretty easy in there. And now I know he didn't beat a stellar group in there, and he really has to step up. But he showed that further improvement with Lasix and into, was 4th, 5th lifetime start at that point. And even at Fairgrounds, I thought he ran very well in the Louisiana Derby. And we're finding that's kind of a key race now. I mean, look, Golden Soul runs second in the Derby. My Loot, your runner-up in the Louisiana Derby, certainly ran well in the Kentucky Derby as well as the winner, Revolutionary. So that Louisiana Derby field looks pretty good now after watching the Kentucky Derby. And the fact that even a horse like Palace Malice came out of the Louisiana Derby, a trouble trip there, ran second in the Bluegrass. So a pretty good race, and Departing ran well in that Louisiana Derby.
Well, you mentioned a trouble trip. You got to mention the Peter Pan, Joel, because you mentioned both the Illinois Derby and a Treble Trip. You have to mention Abraham. He is a horse that is running in the Peter Pan, a prep for possibly the Belmont. Joel, he had a terrible trip in the Illinois Derby. They're going to try him back in the Peter Pan.
Yeah, you see Abraham here. He's just a handsome son of distorted humor. And, you know, we're always talking about these colts that are blossoming this time of year. When you see horses step up and turn in performances and make you think, wow, where did that come from? I mean, there's those maturing type of colts this time of year that have that capability and that talent. I think Abraham's one of them, John. You look at his form and you say, you know, well beaten third in the Sunland Derby. Illinois Derby, he couldn't even hit the board in there. He had a lot of trouble last time out. I think he's still learning the game. You know, you talk to Randy Gillette from Twin Creeks, who owns part of this colt. They've said they've just been probably a month behind on this colt all winter long. They think they have him right in here. You know, it's interesting. He's your morning line favorite. He is a tactical horse. I expect him to show some tactical speed in here, probably track Freedom Child from the rail. Everybody remembers Freedom Child from that Wood Memorial. Just a horrid gate break. You see it right here. The starter doesn't let go of the left rein here. He's subsequently named a non-starter in here. Runs last, but it doesn't matter after the break he had. I mean, just an awful beginning. Another colt, a lot of talent in here. I think he'll set the pace on the rail. I think Abraham's tactical to stock. And then the rest of the field is basically closers. Another colt I think you have to watch out for is Incognito. Well bred. AP Indy out of Octave, certainly that good Umbrito song mare. Bred in the blues, getting better. I mean, he had all kinds of trouble last time out at Aqueduct. I think that going a mile and eighth, he's even going to love the more ground he's going to get. He's improving. I think Incognito off the pace is going to be very tough in here. Those are the three I think it's between. And I think Declan's Warrior, your Bayshore winner last time out, I think he's ultimately going to be your betting favorite in the race.
All right, thank you, Joel. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back next week. We'll recap the Peter Pan, and we'll also preview the Preakness.